I feel like I'm on the.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Entrepreneur Factory weekly training. You have both Boyd Peterson from BP Media in the house and myself, Jim Carroll. We're going to be talking today about reviews and specifically how to get more 5-star reviews. And Boyd is going to do all the heavy lifting with this one. That's right up his alley and his bailiwick. So without any further ado, and I don't even know what ado means, but without any further ado.
It's something that's on the grass on some mornings, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we will get started, and we can get through this pretty quick today, hopefully. So Boyd, take it away.
5-star reviews really starts with excellent customer service. And if you don't know what that is, then that's probably why you're not getting as much in 5-star reviews. But let me tell you, taking care of the customer is what it's all about. And, I've had several experiences where people will get to the end of their serving someone and then the person only gives them a 3 or 4 star. And they say, well, why is that? So let me tell you, if you set an expectation and you overpromise and maybe just barely make it to that promise, that's not a 5-star. Much as you think it should be, it's probably only a 4-star. Because when you are going to give them a 5-star review, it means that you've underpromised and over-delivered. And so they're getting more than what they expected. And that's when really 5 stars come into play. Now, just simply doing your best and getting it so that it's done right, that is good for a 5-star. But understand that there are many people out there that look at it and say, that's what you promised me to do. And it was, so if you do it on time and you do everything right, well, I would hope so. Yeah, I've got a car shop that I've worked with in the past, and they're one of those, they say, well, it looks like we'll be done in 3.5 hours. And at 3.5 hours, perfect. They're done with it. And that means it's great. But if they had said 4 hours and then they're done in 3.5 hours, then suddenly the person says, ooh, see, you beat your time. I love that. And that's when they really feel much better about you. So, and there's all kinds of things that can go along with that. Sometimes,
usually, doesn't it, they say 3 hours, and then at 3 hours, they say, we're just pulling it in the bay now.
Or we're about to start putting it back together.
Yeah.
So, and that's when it doesn't get you a 5-star review. When you have something like that, where you say, yeah, it'll be 3 hours, but we're not going to be pulling it in for a while. That is a problem. Or, you pulled it in and maybe it only took you through 3 hours, but you didn't tell them that it means that you're going to be done in 6 hours because you have 3 hours of work in front of it. So, the key is communication a lot of times. Help people understand what you're doing, so that they can expect what great work you are going to do. And, we're talking about, of course, generally a physical product, but it doesn't have to be. When you talk, like I was talking to an insurance agent the other day, and he was telling me, well, this should be about this. And then when the quote came back, it was less than that. So it really, as I looked at it, I said, okay, so he was giving a good guess and it was just a little bit less than that. That's a good thing. And so it tends to help you feel more warm and fuzzy for them. So 5-star. Now, there's a lot of different ways to make sure you're getting a 5-star review, but one of the best ones is to have something sent out to your customers to say, how did we do? What did you think of what we did? And you can even do surveys. You can do all kinds of things. We have a survey form that we use. Sometimes we use just simply a one question thing. How did you feel about our service this time? And leave it as an open-end question so that they can say, oh, it was great, or they'll tell the story. But if you use more of a a survey, it tends to gives you a little more information and may even be able to help you improve on your customer service. Now, I'll give you an example of, I had a guy who called me one time, and again, it's a mechanic shop for automobiles. He called me and he says, I don't understand this. We do great work, and I don't understand why we can never get a 5-star review. And as I'm looking through the reviews and things, I'm finding a common denominator. And they may be done on time, but the main person at the front desk wasn't calling people to tell them their vehicle was done. People had to call in to find out if it was done. And that was why they weren't getting it. Once we addressed that with the service people handing it to the service writer, who then would call, once she started doing that on a regular basis and doing it as soon as it came in, suddenly they got 5-star reviews and 4-star reviews. And that's where they wanted to be, was between the 4s and 5s. And instead of where they were, 4 was the highest they'd ever gotten up to that point. So you've got to understand that it's not always just the service you work, it's the communication you give. And so you've got to be careful with that. And there's lots of different things. And as you go through and start surveying your clients, your customers, that's when you'll find out how well you are doing. Now, there's a couple of things I want to give you a fair warning about. I used to work with a couple of companies, and we would do surveys for them, but the owner insisted that he wanted to do the surveys. As people were leaving, he would say, hey, can I ask you a few questions? How was the service today? And he always got great, and oh, it's awesome. And then he'd get a 4-star review, and it said, you know, the server was a little less than attentive, and you know, some other things. And he'd call him up and he says, you told me that it was, and that everything was great. And they said, well, we just told you what we thought you wanted to hear. And that's part of the problem. If you do it yourself, you as the owner, or as the person who actually gave the service, some people will lie because they don't want to tell you the truth in front of you. They don't want to have the consequences of that. But they're very willing to put it on a review site. I was talking to a gentleman a few weeks ago, and he keeps getting these terrible reviews, and he's a restaurant. He gets these terrible reviews all the time on some of the review sites, and some he doesn't. And he says, why is this? And I said, well, let's look at who the site is and what their, what type of person is going to that site and such. But it turns out it wasn't that. It was that and we monitored who was the server and some other, and how long did it take for the food to come out and a few other things. And once we started looking at that, we found it was a specific server who was getting most of the bad reviews. And it was that she'd go back, she'd put the order in, and then she wouldn't show up again to their table, even though, she got them the drinks the first time, then she took the order, she put the order in, and then never came back to their table again until she was delivering the food. And then the next time she came was when she was delivering the check. And what was happening was they could see the other servers always checking back with the people at their tables, but not her. And so people would run out of drink. They'd run out of chips and salsa because this was a Mexican restaurant. They'd run out of, different things. And, or one time we found that I had to go looking for silverware for our table. Our server handed us the food and walked off, and I haven't been able to find her. That's not a good thing. So you've got to have good service, and asking your customers with a third party or a online thing helps. Now, some people won't even answer the online things. Some people won't answer questions even with a third party calling. But you will get more of those people who will answer honestly on those type of things. So I always ask people to take a survey before I ask them to give you a review, because if there was a bad, something went bad, we want to be able to correct it. We want to talk to the customer and make sure that the next experience was much better. And then when we see that everything was much better, then we ask them for the review then. Now, people will give the review anyway, and sometimes that's good. So you just have to be able to understand what the customer is going through, what they experienced, not what you experienced. Now, I have another restaurant, another Mexican restaurant, that the owner, when he is there, is always going out and talking to the people at their tables. And this really has helped his 5-star reviews. Now, he still has some of the other problems with servers, or sometimes not enough servers, or food being a little slower, because he had a full house one time, and his servers were just running ragged. But he would deliver the food, and then he talked to him for a few moments. Well, this increased their likelihood of giving a 5-star review, because he took the time to make a connection with them. It's all about communications again. And people love that. People love to be heard, and people love to have a connection with the owner, or they love to get to know some of the people a little more than just, can I take your order now? That's hard. That's hard. So how do you go about getting 5-star reviews, better 5-star reviews? We have a program that we use that it sends out to everyone that people have had, have come into their business, and they want to send out and say, how did we do? And we send out that little mini survey. Usually has 3-4 questions, just to make sure that everything was good. You know, how did the people, like we did one for a chiropractor a few days ago, and it was, you know, how was the receptionist? You know, was she attentive, taking care of you? Did you get right in to see the doctor on time? Or, you know, and sometimes it was, you know, he was a couple minutes late, but that was okay. But then you ask him, well, how about the service? Did you leave feeling better than when you came in? Now, there are times when you go to a chiropractor and sometimes he's done some things and you're hurting a bit, but you know that it's going to be better in a few hours. So you got to pay attention to that. And sometimes you want to send that out in 3 hours and see how they feel then. So, you know, it's doing a survey, and then once you get a great survey, somebody says, oh my gosh, that was great. You can ask the question, would you love to give a review on some of our sites? And then you give them, when you send that second email out to them, or second text message, would you please give us a review on any of these 2 or 3 sites? And then make sure that they know how. It's just a quick link that they can click to go to Google My Business, or to Yelp, or to Facebook, or to whatever it might be, so that they can leave that. And it makes it easy for them to do. But always thank them before you ask them for the review. That's one of the big things. In fact, we have a whole criteria when we send out that particular request. We say, hey, thank you for giving us the survey, and thank you for the kind words you said about us. Would you mind giving us a review? Here's what you said in that. Would you please repeat that? And here is where you can go to copy and paste that to. And we gave them Facebook, Google My Business, and in one case, it was Golden Spoon, because it was a restaurant. So, and people will do that. People will do 1. Sometimes they'll do 2 and 3. And so, and our software tracks which ones they clicked, and then we were able to see how well we're doing with getting reviews. So the key is have a way of doing that. Now, if you have a bad one, we talked about bad reviews and bad things a few weeks ago, but be sure to answer those too, be sure to get back to them and say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that we failed you. Let's see what we can do to make it better for you. And let them know that it's not a habit that you have of being bad. It's that is the exception, not the rule. So 5-star reviews. Jim, what's your thoughts on things?
I'm here. I'm just.
I know you're listening in.
Yeah. You know, my mind was wandering off a little tiny bit. And what I was thinking about was not just 5-star reviews, but, you know, we've both taught classes before, and the perfect number of stars is 4.7. At least in my opinion, somewhere between 4.2 and 4.7. So people don't need to panic if they do get a 4-star review.
Right.
So that, you know, I just was thinking that we needed to mention that. I know that people sometimes call me and say, I just got a 4-star review. What do I do? And I say, nothing. It's
perfect.
Going to bring you down. I've actually told clients before too that I'm going to go give you a 4-star review just to bring you down. You can't be perfect. You can't have a 5-star review.
And that's because there are people out there who believe nobody's perfect. And if you've got a perfect 5.0 score, they think you've bought it, or, oh, it's mom and dad and all the brothers, or something like that. And even though they're legitimate reviews and they have 200 of them, you got to make sure you have a few that are saying, ooh, you know, because they recognize there's going to be some people who like them don't believe there's anyone who is perfect. And so 4 is as high as you're ever going to get.
No, ironically, I kind of believe that too. So I rarely give a 5-star review. So I just think that everybody should get a good 4-star review.
Yeah, well, and so like you said, between 4.2, I like to go up to 4.8, but you know, 4.7, somewhere in there is where you really want to keep your score at. I was talking to a hotel a few weeks ago, and they have a 3.2. Tell me that they don't have room for improvement.
They probably have bed bugs.
No, actually, their biggest problem was that some people would get to the rooms and the rooms hadn't been done yet. They hadn't been cleaned yet. Nice. And then other times it was this one hotel that I was doing, their big problem was they only had one senior staff there. And that person cleaned the pool and ran the front desk and did the reservations. And it was just one person doing all those things. Now, he had great staff that cleaned the rooms and vacuumed the halls and took care of all that kind of stuff, but he was the only one. So if he was in the pool cleaning it, when somebody walked in the front door, how did he know that they were there? He didn't. So he just would do 10 minutes of work there, and then he'd come back to see if anybody had walked in. That's not a good way to do it.
Not a good system.
Not a good system. I mean, they had over 100 rooms. Wow. Certainly you could have hired a second person at least to be able to answer the phone calls, because we walked in and the phone was ringing. We were there. There was a person in front of us and there was nobody to be found.
But the pool was clean.
Well, it was being cleaned. So yeah, he came around about 4 minutes later. He says, oh, sorry, I was down cleaning the pool. And we're going, okay, that's cool. We're not going to use the pool. It's 8 o'clock at night and we're leaving at 4:30 in the morning. You know,
yeah, there you go.
But you know, that's when you start losing stars, is when you don't have enough people there. So, you know, I had a person the other day tell me something, and there's something to this, but yet on the other hand, you know, take it with a grain of salt. They said, you know, I know that it's hard to find people. Maybe you need to pay higher than you should, letting them know that you're going to pay them higher for this time, and then you're going to drop it down. And I said, you're going to lose them as soon as you decide to drop them down. Okay, so here's the thing. A grocery store that's just opening is offering $20 an hour for a bagger. for a cart runner, for a person at the tills, at the cash registers. And then it goes up from there for any of the other things. But and this person who runs a fast food restaurant was saying, I can't get enough people to work here. And they keep saying, I'm going over to that grocery store to work because they're offering $5 an hour more. That's hard.
Mhm.
But sometimes you have to, and this is what this person was telling me, sometimes you have to bite the bullet and match the price so you can keep the employees. But the other side of that was, she said, don't match the price, maybe go a little below, but have better benefits. You know, you've got something that they don't have.
Mhm.
And in her case, with that restaurant, she actually owns 3 other restaurants. She has it so you get a company card that you can go to any of these 3 restaurants and you get 40% off your meals. That's a big deal for one of those restaurants, is a big name restaurant. And so a lot of the employees are staying at her fast food so they can go to the sit down restaurant with their significant other.
You know, it sounds more and more, Boyd, like what you're saying is that it almost always comes down to customer service.
It is.
And that's what helps you get the 5-star review. And I want to, you know, we're solving the world's problems here. But I want to go back to that motel that you were speaking of. He probably would be much further ahead if he would hire a pool cleaning service, and you can hire an answering service to take your reservations.
Yeah.
You know, if you can't hire somebody locally, then you certainly can hire like somebody, you know, from, I actually had an answering service, but they were in Florida, and they took all my calls for me, and you know, it worked out nice. I would get the messages, you know, right away and stuff, but I had somebody else actually answering the phone. They answered with the script I gave them, and it was pretty straightforward. So that could keep him behind the desk making money instead of out cleaning the pool. So
Yep, I agree. You know, they
finding-
look at it and they say, well, you're not always busy there, so let's give you these other things and we can cut costs. But by cutting costs, they're cutting their reputation.
Yeah.
And to be quite honest, I'm going to tell you this up front. Reputation is the new currency. If you don't have a good reputation, you're not going to get the money in. You're going to find that others who do have that currency of a great reputation will get the business that you're not going to get.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else you want to add? I don't have anything. Anyone else have questions? And if you're just watching this on YouTube, please send us your questions about this. You can send it to, probably the best one is info@bpmedia.com, or you can send it to Jim. Where do you want them to send for you?
Send it to just Jim at e2-ts.com.
Okay. So, sorry?
Oh, I said I catch everything there.
Okay, good. So I get so much traffic on my Boyd at BP Media. I have people send it to info so that I can differentiate from where it's coming from.
I just
You just do everything in one. Yeah, I know.
That's a one email. Okay. Well, listen, everybody. I don't want you to forget that 3 times a week we publish a podcast. And that's on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. They come out about 10 a.m. And what do we talk about on Mondays?
We talk about marketing.
What do we talk about on Wednesdays?
Oh, taking your business to a new level. That's, you know, for an existing business.
And my favorite is Fridays because we talk to new business people.
Entrepreneurs, whether they haven't started or they've just started their business and they're a solopreneur, we help there.
Yes, absolutely. We ask the question, what do you know now that you wished you had known a year ago, or something like that? So,
yes.
Okay. Don't forget to join us Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
And that's an Entrepreneur Factory podcast.
Yes. Thanks for mentioning that. I would have closed the show. Yeah.
All right.
They need to know where to go.
That's true.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.